was in town this morning, doing a few errands and a little bit of light shopping, kind of stuff that would go in my pocket. And this bike was parked on the side of the street while I wandered around and did my thing. And when I got back, there was an old boy stood there looking at my bike. When I say old boy, you know, proper old school, I'm going to stab a guess that he was probably in his 80s. So yeah, I went onto my bike, put the key in it, said hello to him, and we sparked up a conversation. And he was telling me about how he had a Triumph in the early 60s and what amazing condition mine was in. So then I pointed out to him that it's actually only an 8-year-old bike, and that Triumph had made it look old, and in fairness done a pretty reasonable job of that. And I've probably helped to make it look a little bit more retro by removing a lot of the bling off it. But anyway, we had a rare old chat on the side of the street, and after we'd said our goodbyes, I got on the bike and I was riding home, and it got me to thinking. Innovation and advances in technology, they're there, and there's plenty of them, but they're a lot more hidden now. You don't necessarily spot them. You take them for granted, really. I mean, we're only talking 80-something, 90-ish years ago. I think it was the late 1930s. When the Germans and the British simultaneously came up with the jet engine. And that in itself wasn't very long. In the greater scheme of things, after the Wright brothers had their first powered flight. So they were kind of huge marches in technology and in engineering over a relatively short period of time. Feel safe behind that bloke. Yeah, so nowadays we've got AI and smartphones that have more computing power than Apollo 11 had to go to the moon and all this stuff, and we take it for granted. We don't notice things. I mean, going back to air travel, pretty much everything now has got a jet engine or 2 or 4 or whatever strapped to it. We have military aircraft that do over twice the speed of sound. I mean, we had Concorde, which happened in the late 60s, and that was a supersonic airliner. And you saw these things, they were physical, you could touch them. Okay, not necessarily touch them, because they might have been at 30,000 feet or what have you, but now technology is hidden. And this old boy that I was talking to, He hadn't noticed the fact that this is water cooled because the radiators are actually relatively small and reasonably well hidden. He hadn't noticed until I pointed it out to him that it was fuel injected, there's no carburetor on it, and he would never have noticed that it's got things like traction control and anti-lock brakes. And this is, as motorcycles go in this day and age, this one is sort of relatively basic. But technology's got a bit of a march on us. It's dictating how we do things. And what I'm thinking about there more than anything else is the reason I'm sticking with older bikes of this kind of era. This one's a Euro 4 compliant bike. And you can still get into the ECU and tune it and fettle it and tickle it and mess with it. Only 2 or 3 years after this bike was new, they'd moved to Euro 5. It's all about emissions and all this crap. And not so tunable. So technology isn't necessarily always a great thing. More so, that applies more nowadays, I think, than it did back in the day when technology and engineering advances were visible. And all of a sudden you could fly from London to New York and it took a couple of hours less than it used to. Cost 4 times as much, but when things like that were happening, you could see it. It's kind of just under the surface now. One of the more recent things, which is probably going to get there with time, but at the moment it's not that reliable. Artificial intelligence. At the moment, AI harvests its information 100% from human answers, and they might not be right. It hasn't got enough information to, or the ability to work out what is accurate and what isn't accurate, and sometimes AI is actually wrong. You tend to spot that more on social media than anywhere else, but we had a situation at work the other day. It was a control on, we were installing a machine, there were 4 of us there. It had a control on it that we couldn't get to work right, so last resort, and we're all quite experienced engineers, but last resort we got onto Google and we got so much duff information. We spent a lot of time on that, getting it wrong before we finally figured it out for ourselves. Yeah, I mean, another good example actually relating to motorcycles is tyres. Now, the Japanese well-known innovators, they're the guys that at the back end of the 60s brought us a 4-cylinder bike. Thank you, Honda. 4 carburetors that never went out of balance. And originally these bikes were fitted with, I believe pretty much all Japanese bikes, if not all Japanese bikes, were fitted with 1960s, 70s Bridgestones, which back in those days, left an awful lot to be desired. So the first thing everyone did was stick Dunlop TT100s on there, or some decent tyre on there, which would improve things dramatically. Nowadays, and here we are in 2025, tyres still look exactly the same. They're black and round and made of rubber. The tyre technology and materials and all the rest of it has changed dramatically. And if you stick with the brands, generally different tyres suit different people in different ways. But generally, if you stick to the well-known brands, the established brands, all tyres are pretty good nowadays. They have different characteristics. Some are great in the dry, some are great in the wet. Some are great on this kind of bike, that, etc, etc. But I would imagine the only time you're going to find, or possibly question your choice in tyres, is if you fit one of these unknown Middle Eastern brands to a very powerful superbike. Now I can imagine that might be fun. I don't really have a lot of experience of them. I don't have a small, I suppose my CCM's small-ish. One's got Pirelli, I've got two sets of wheels for that. One set of wheels has got Pirelli front and rear, which are good enough. My favourite set, which I'm trying to wear the Pirellis out actually at the moment, because they're both Supermoto wheels, and I want to put probably trials tyres or sort of non-aggressive off-road tyres on the one set of Supermoto wheels, and road tyres on the other set. And I've got the Pirellis fitted at the moment. I'm trying to wear them out because they're the wheels that the non-aggressive off-road type style tyres are going to be going on. And the other set has got a Dunlop rear tyre and a Metzeler front. Now the Metzeler front is sticky, grips really well when it's on the ground. On the rare occasions it's on the ground, so it's great under braking. And the Dunlop is quite a hard tyre. So it can sort of, not in a big way, but it can skate around a little bit. But I'm a lot happier with a loose rear end than I would be with a loose front end. But at the end of the day, they're still black, round and made of rubber, so they still look the same as tyres did 100 years ago. It's the technology within the materials that's changed. going back to what I originally started talking about, this old boy stopping me in the street. Well, he didn't stop me, but I stopped to chat to him. That's one of the great things about this bike, and I would imagine it'd be the same with any bike that's slightly retro, any modern bike that's slightly retro. It attracts the attention of former bikers, people who gave up for whatever reason, because they had a family or because of injury or because of age or whatever. It's a great icebreaker, this bike is. That is an awkward corner, particularly in a bloody great big truck like that.